Hey Fit Pros, it's your host Tyler Valencia here. Before we get to this episode, I quickly want to share a free resource we have on the KIPS website and YouTube channel. If you're struggling with your online workouts or just want to see the items that we recommend, check out our virtual training resources page. You'll find breakdowns on streaming setups, reviews on microphones, and other free videos that can help you build your fitness business today. Did I mention they're free? Go check them out at the link in the description or head over to our website to find them under the blog tab. Welcome back to another discussion episode in the KIPS podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. In this episode, we're going to be talking about where to start as an online instructor and more from the technical aspects. From that, I mean, how are you going to be selling them? Do you set up your own website? Are you creating a private group? These are the things that we're going to be talking about in this episode that hopefully gives new entry-level instructors a path to create their online workout business, or even a veteran or a seasoned instructor looking at their options and trying to figure out where do they go, or even how do they upgrade their current offerings. With all of these discussion episodes, don't forget, we would love to get your feedback and even hear what you think about the topic. Posting in our private Facebook group, Fitness Builder Plus, is a great spot, or even on the post on Instagram, another spot where you can share your input on the topic. Helping other Fit Pros is always the goal of these episodes. Your insight, what you've gone through, what you're doing, or even what you've been looking at, that's all useful information that can hopefully help out another Fit Pro out there. Now, this discussion topic, I've seen it on different Facebook groups. I've seen people share positives, some share negative. All, in my opinion, have to do with their experience and kind of what their background is and their familiarity with working with websites or even working with technical aspects of putting all these together. So the three options that we're going to be looking at, again, depend on your comfort level. What do you feel comfortable with? What is your budget? And how much time do you have to dedicate to getting this going, getting this website, getting this business rolling? We're going to be discussing the Facebook private group route, using a third-party booking company. And then lastly, we're going to jump into the DIY option. So creating your own member site and some of the technical aspects associated with it. Let's start with the Facebook private group. Now, I've seen this one work pretty effectively, and I've seen some businesses that had it in person add this element over the last 2 years, and it worked pretty well for them. In my opinion, it's the easiest option. It's low cost, and when you think about it, the majority of people out there have Facebook, or it's relatively easy to set up. So newcomers, if you're having them join a private group and maybe they don't have a Facebook, pretty easy to do it, and you don't really have to put much into it as someone that is just setting an account up. Email address, validate it, now you can join the group. One of the big questions that you're going to have to figure out though with this is, how are you going to collect your money? PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. You could probably do PayPal invoices or potentially create a membership, but how are you going to collect your money for these? With thinking about it, and this is one of the parts where it might not be as professional or might not be as automated, but figuring these things out will help you create the member experience. What does someone go through when they are joining your group? Since you're using Facebook, you're not going to have a website that somebody can go to, a landing page that already has the merchant processor embedded in it. So let's talk about the member experience once you've set up a private Facebook group. And one of the positives in my book is that you can use the fancy equipment if you've already invested in it, or you're going to invest in some. So I'm talking about mixers, interfaces, microphones, all that kind of jazz. Of course, you want to make sure that you're using royalty-free music with it. Facebook does have a pretty aggressive algorithm that will find if you are using music that you do not have access to. So keep that in mind with that component of it, but you can use microphones, all that kind of stuff. In my opinion, though, a slight negative of it is going to be the video quality. Since Facebook tends to really compress video quality. If you're streaming it, hopefully it doesn't compress it too much, but you can definitely try your best to feed Facebook the best quality videos you can. So making sure you're using either your iPhone, your iPad, maybe a webcam that does have 4K or 1080 a part of it. Those are really going to help out with the video quality of it. Another negative now to jump into, and it kind of similar to when I was talking about with the merchant processor, is now the marketing aspect. How are you going to be marketing a Facebook page, a private Facebook group that there's no website? Are you going to be creating an associated page with it so that you can post to that page, but now you're just on one platform? What are those pieces that you're going to do to help build it out? Are you going to be giving out that link, as that's going to be the main component of it, that you're just handing out a link, a private Facebook group link? That's one of the things that it's kind of in my book, it's a negative because it doesn't really have that website feel to it. It doesn't have that full professional feel to it. Now, there are ways of making it be professional. Don't get me wrong on that. And as I mentioned before in the beginning, I've heard some very positive results from people that had established businesses before, and then they added that private group. One of the past guests on the podcast was Cruz. She's the owner of Hit Logic up in Bend, Oregon. They have, I believe, 3 locations and a cycling location as well. And she talked about how she used this private group during quarantine to help really build the community during this time. They would have people that would just tune in. They'd be at work. They'd tune in to the private group just to throw in some support, chime in, say, hey, great job, or even saying how they're going to be doing it later. Those are things that take time to build sometimes. If you are building a community online, it takes time to build those things out. So she really saw great results in that aspect. I've seen also other private independent instructors doing their own Facebook group, and that might be put together from a word of mouth, or they already knew these individuals from the gym that they were working at, and those people wanted more. So those are those aspects of it. But don't forget to think about those negatives, how you marketing it, video quality, and how are you going to overcome some of those items. Definitely some things that are hurdles, but you definitely can go this route. And as I mentioned before at the beginning, it's one of the easiest options and low cost in my opinion. The next option we're going to jump to is the third-party booking site. And this one usually has a monthly cost associated with it, but they're really built to be user-friendly. A handful of these companies really popped up over the last couple of years for Fit Pros, and they're created to be that no experience with website development option, that it's kind of a plug all your information in and you have your own admin portal and you basically put all the information in and now you have your own kind of website. That's not really your website, but it's meant to be for that person that just needs something easy and hopefully has all those components as we talked about with the first one, the merchant processor. We talked about the member portal, those things built into it already. And if you're already a subscriber of the KIPS YouTube channel, or you frequent our blog, or a subscriber to our newsletter, you've maybe seen that we did a review on one of these already, one called Balance. So I'll put a link in the description for the review we did on it. But basically we went through the options, showcasing the features of it and how to use it. But as I mentioned, there's a handful of them out there. And over the last couple months, right now it's May 2022, and I have heard a handful of negative things as other companies are buying these up and now make it a part of their platform, and the negatives of those. But there are options out there. You just have to see what you like, see what you want to invest your time in. The monthly option with it, that could be higher if you want more features. But let's talk about the positives now. The big positive, and I kind of already hinted at this one, is that all the harder technical items are already figured out for you. The merchant processor is already built in. They have a membership paywall installed, and they have all these options that you basically put your business information in or the information about your training in, and boom, you're ready to go. Huge positive there. You're not having to build the look of your website. You're not having to figure out what, if you are familiar with WordPress, what plugin you want to put a part of for merchant processing, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's figured out. And members just have to sign up, pay, and boom, they're able to log in, take your workouts, all that kind of good stuff. The negatives now that we're going to talk about this is a big one in my book, is that you're going to be limited from a marketing standpoint, in my opinion. You're not going to be able to take advantage of organic growth through SEO. And I know SEO is a big trigger word, but it's something that encompasses so many different things, but you're not going to be really able to take advantage of that type of growth because your domain or your company will be a part of that company's URL. It's going to be that company's URL / your company name after. There's always going to be that component of it. So you're not going to get that type of growth that you might get with something that you custom built. And those pieces do help. But if you feel strong about your own marketing, if you're a consistent poster on social media, that might not be the biggest deal. Now you have some place that you don't really have to worry about website items and you can kind of just send them there and you have a place that's going to look professional. That could be a big positive of it. So that's a two-sided one. The marketing of it can be a negative, but on the same side of it, if you feel comfortable and you feel good with what you're putting out on social media, you're getting inquiries through social media. Hey, how can I train with you? Oh, hey, are you doing your own online workouts? Yeah, I do. Here's that link. Going to make it a lot easier for you right there. Now the last one here, the DIY membership site. And this one, I will say it's saved for the last because it's the most expensive one. Kind of went in order there with cheapest to most expensive. And this one's going to be the toughest too. So most expensive and the toughest, which is probably not the words people want to hear. They don't want to hear that's going to be tough. It's going to be more expensive. And especially if you haven't ever built a website. On the flip side of it, there's so many positives. There's a lot more positives that the other two that we talked about just can't really pack into it. They can't really compete with it. The positives will outweigh, in my opinion, anything that the other ones will have. The positives are huge. First of all, you control everything. You can control everything on your own website and anything can be modified. If you're building a WordPress site, anything can be modified. The look of something, how it shows up on mobile, all these things can be controlled. And the next thing, SEO, organic growth, things that you're not going to be able to do with the other two. This is going to be a big component of it. That's really why website builders or cheaper ones, if you've looked at maybe GoDaddy or Wix, can those potentially work? Yeah, but WordPress, you're going to have a lot of options for organic growth. The next one too, and I know I keep talking about WordPress because it's one of the biggest builders out there, but there's a lot of integration too. Plugins, software that already integrates. And in my opinion, if you are open to the idea of figuring it out, the DIY options, there's going to be a lot of tutorials out there that can help you put these pieces together. There's a lot of stuff that integrates well with it. I know I mentioned with the second one, the merchant processor is already built into it. Similar with building websites these days, that merchant processors, because they've had to. They integrate well with websites because of the need for it. So really, it's not as hard as it used to be. I remember when I set up one of my first websites, I believe it was through Squarespace, but I had to take the code and inject it into my Squarespace site. Sounds a lot harder, but this was years ago. Now it's a couple clicks of a button, boom. And now you have a merchant processor associated with and built into your website. The next one on there that I thought was a positive too, and I know I keep talking about WordPress, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a WordPress site. I believe Wix has options for doing online. There are some negatives to Wix in my opinion. Their SEO options and how you make a page, all that kind of stuff, they're not as well configured. That's my opinion on it. Some people might say I'm wrong, but I believe that from what I've seen, the couple sites that I've worked on that were built on Wix, really not SEO friendly and doesn't really help out with your organic growth. The last one that's a positive in my book is when you're going to be doing paid marketing, you're going to have a much bigger impact with Facebook ads, because you can integrate Facebook's ability to integrate with your website. They have something called a Facebook Pixel, and WordPress has options to really make it a lot easier to install those. So when you do your ads, you're going to get better data, better results, because you're going to be able to integrate it much more efficiently. Now, a couple negatives I do want to mention out there if you're doing the DIY member site is that the cost, it could be higher. And I mentioned that at the beginning when I was talking about this one. But technically, it also could be cheaper in the long run. If you're building it yourself, if you're paying one time for some of these options, and you don't have a monthly, month-to-month fee that you're paying, some of those other ones, if you're doing a third-party site, they might be in the $20, $25, $30 per month. And that could add up over a year, couple of years. And that's why I mentioned that doing it yourself, it could potentially be cheaper in the long run. The next negative, and how we talked about all these options, all of them, with it being a comfort level, maintenance and issues that pop up, that could be a huge negative. If you're not familiar, if you don't feel comfortable with these, that it can be something that it could be a headache or things that you don't know where to start. But I will say that maintenance and a lot of the issues, searching on Google or even just finding somebody to help you out quickly for things, it's pretty easy. And it could be something that could be a much smaller issue once you maybe have somebody that is a website builder and they can quickly just jump in, fix it, boom, you're all good. Just a couple more pieces in my thoughts on the DIY membership site. This is an option that I've actually utilized myself, my company, Time to Train Fitness. I built it out and installed the membership plugin, which had the merchant processor side associated with it. So then on top of that, now what do you need to figure out? You need to figure out how you're going to be embedding videos, or you're streaming. If you're doing streaming, how you're embedding those items and how you're going to make your website look, images, colors, all that kind of stuff you'll be figuring out. But those things might actually be fun for people. If you are someone that likes to be creative, if you like to have your business really associated with all of your website, all of your company, those might be things that you will enjoy throughout the process, how it looks. Is there a video in the background, all those kinds of things. So some of these negatives could be positives for other people. It's really, again, finding what you are comfortable with and what you want to go, what route you want to go. And you can always change, in my opinion. You could always go up and down this ladder depending upon where you are in your career. So that's been it for this episode, where we kind of talk about where someone can start as an online instructor, where they can move up this ladder. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic in our private Facebook group, Fitness Builder Plus, or maybe on the post on Instagram. This is a new topic and a fun one to talk about. There's really no wrong answer in my book. So share, help other fit pros along their journey. Thank you for listening, tuning in, and until the next one, I'll see you online.